am having, Mac.
You know, it doesn't feel like that long ago when we got our first look at what to expect from Sonic Frontiers, and I remember the entirety of the internet freaking out because it wasn't exactly what they were hoping for. It looked desolate and basically pretty boring. I remember there was a time where this game got compared to Breath of the Wild to like no end, and that's all everyone saw it as, the Sonic the Hedgehog Breath of the Wild clone. Flash forward to today's date, which is several months later, we find out that Sonic Frontiers has sold over 3 million copies and making it the best-selling 3D Sonic the Hedgehog game. And you know what? Nobody was expecting that. Even in some of my own videos where I talked about Sonic Frontiers before the game was released, I was basically saying that the game would be good and I was excited for it, but I had never made a prediction saying it would be the best-selling 3D Sonic game ever. So all of what I'm saying really just leads us to this question in wondering, how did we even get here in the first place? How is Sonic Frontiers the game that it is? Well, to answer this question, we have to start at the beginning. Right from the beginning, Sonic Frontiers was the game that no one really knew anything about. I mean, that's to be expected when you reveal a game and only show off some CGI footage, but we saw Sonic running through this grassy plain and everyone assumed, hey, is this an adventure remake or something? Cause what's going on here? Nonetheless, the reception from this little clip alone was generally pretty positive, but we also didn't know really anything except for this, and also this strange logo, which I think many people are still confused about to this day, even after the game has been released. This led us to believe a whole bunch of different things about what this game was going to include, because Sonic was using a different power. It wasn't his usual boost that we've seen before, and he had a new move that we were unfamiliar with, which now is known as the Psyloop. Nonetheless, this CGI trailer really didn't give us a whole bunch to go off of, except just speculating what would happen in the game and what exactly is going on here with Sonic's powers. Now, before we move on to what happened next after we got this CGI trailer, it's important to recognize that there's a common theme going on here with the Sonic Frontiers promotional material. Before I really talk about it, I want to see how quickly you can recognize it, or if you already know it. Now, we would have to wait another 7 months to get more information regarding Sonic Frontiers with the announcement trailer, and this is not what people were hoping for. Unlike the first CG teaser trailer we got, the reception for this was actually completely mixed. It was all over the place, but I felt like it was more so leaning towards the negative than the positive for a multitude of reasons. People were pissed off because there was no gameplay footage aside from Sonic just standing there, and all the trailer really did was just showcase the area in which you'd be exploring without really doing any of the exploring. So just judging off of what we see based on this footage alone, we know the game is going to be open world, but what does that mean for Sonic? How will he control? What's the gameplay going to look like? Why does the area look completely desolate? Where are the people? Where are the enemies you're supposed to fight? There were tons of things that people had problems with in regards to this trailer that made people really uneasy. But there's a perfectly adequate saying that really applies to not just this trailer, but the one we talked about earlier with the teaser trailer. And it's the whole idea that there's no such thing as bad publicity. Essentially what I'm saying is there was a common denominator between those who liked the trailer and those who didn't. And that common denominator was you were talking about it. No matter who you were always speaking about how much you liked or disliked that trailer, which led to more people finding out more information about Sonic Frontiers. To many people, what it felt like was it was 7 long months of not getting any information about Sonic Frontiers, and the one time we do, it's still not that much information. A lot of people had already assumed that we were going to be getting an open world Sonic game just from the CGI opening alone, but now we had that confirmation in the new trailer, but that was it. We didn't know what Sonic's gameplay would look like or anything about the story whatsoever. It was just that. And also people were bothered because it didn't feel like it was a Sonic location. It felt like you had just taken Sonic and plopped him into this area that looked like it was straight out of Breath of the Wild or something. Nobody was making the claim that the visuals of the game look bad, but instead they were saying, we don't know what this game is going to look like, and it feels like Sega is scared to show us more information, so therefore I will feel less confident about the overall product. So people were scared because they thought that Sega was scared to show us more information. And it wouldn't be for another 5 months until those thoughts and feelings were slightly dismayed when we got our first actual gameplay footage of Sonic Frontiers in a teaser trailer by IGN first. This 38-second teaser gave a lot of hope for people who were feeling a little uncomfortable about Sonic Frontiers in the beginning, because now we had seen some gameplay footage of Sonic using his combat abilities, some new moves, and just running around in the grasslands. But unfortunately, it would seem as if all of that hope was thrown out the window because of what was going to happen next. Now, there were lots of questions about why this was happening, but IGN had the first world premiere gameplay footage of Sonic Frontiers, and this rubbed people the wrong way. Because IGN had already a rocky history with Sonic the Hedgehog in the first place, and now they were having an opportunity to showcase what would be the future of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now let's not get it twisted, the world premiere gameplay did give a lot of answers to questions we already had about the game originally, but there was also a lot of things we just didn't know fully about, because some people were confused if this was just bad gameplay or if the game genuinely just looked bad. Some people even led to believe that IGN was actually conspiring to destroy Sonic just by showcasing bad gameplay, which, oh my goodness. The fact of the matter is, whether you like this gameplay trailer or not, there was once again the same common denominator. You were talking about it. After the first gameplay footage that IGN showcased, a lot of people were kind of put off by Sonic Frontiers. They weren't exactly happy with what the game was turning out to be, and they kind of lost a lot of hope from it. But it was after seeing the combat gameplay trailer that more people began to get on board with what the game had to offer. We were able to see some never-before-seen moves that Sonic the Hedgehog showcased in just some fights with these weird creatures we'd never seen before in the series, but it was so cool to people because this was new, fascinating, and exciting. I believe that this is the moment where the tide began to change in favor for Sonic Frontiers, because what we were now seeing was a bit more gameplay of how Sonic would function in this open zone rather than just running around in it, and it didn't seem as desolate as it once did before. Now, I'm not saying that the entirety of the fan base and all of the gaming community was all on board with Sonic Frontiers now, but this trailer was certainly turning some heads. People started to get interested again. After the combat trailer had captivated people, what was to follow was a bunch of videos talking about the process of making Sonic Frontiers, and all sorts of different interviews that basically gave you a bit more background of why the game is the way that it is. Overall, I would have to say that the IGN first Sonic Frontiers presentations in retrospect were actually pretty solid. For me personally, I actually found a lot of enjoyment in watching all of them, but I think in an overall sense, I think they were just pretty good. I think they got a lot of flack at the time, but now, in retrospect, we have to agree that they weren't really that bad. But I think what the question we really still want to know is, why didn't Sega and Sonic Team just kind of do this themselves? Why did they hand it off to IGN to show off the gameplay footage? Because I think you probably could have had a lot more people on board from the first trailer if you had just made the gameplay yourself and showcased it yourself, instead of having IGN do it. And that question was actually at the back of people's mind anyway when IGN was showing this stuff off in the first place, so this really isn't a new question at all. However, what was to follow really made this question a bit stronger in people's heads, because what happened next was... After the IGN first was over, it seemed like we could not stop getting more information about Sonic Frontiers, and this went on for a long while. Frontiers was then showed off a Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase where we got some more open zone gameplay and also some cyberspace gameplay, which is like the first we've ever seen anything like that. Now, from then on, we didn't have anything officially released from Sega or Sonic Team themselves, that was actually like a trailer or a teaser or anything along those lines. Most of the stuff we got was like interviews or like gameplay clips or something along those lines. But it would not be until August 23rd where we would finally get information about the story itself. Now, we had heard it in snips and pieces in interviews, but now we actually had some raw material. So at this point, we had already seen a whole bunch of information regarding the Sonic Frontiers gameplay footage, so now people were curious as to why Sonic was in this strange location, and the story trailer aimed to answer that kind of question. And if the story trailer didn't do anything for you, it would be the following week where you would get more information about Sonic Frontiers in an overview trailer, and immediately what everyone and their mom was saying was, why wasn't this the first thing that we saw? And this is exactly where the genius of Sonic Frontiers comes in at this very moment, because as I mentioned before, the reoccurring theme of Sonic Frontiers is that no matter how you felt about the information we were getting, you were talking about it. And essentially, people were trying to piece together information that wasn't there, trying to make sense of the nonsense on their own, with Sega giving us little to no insight. But the Sonic Frontiers overview trailer basically just gave us all of that information at once and subdued any negative or any unclear thoughts about the game itself. Whether intentional or not, the Sonic Frontiers marketing team always kept the fans and the overall community on their toes, wondering what was going to happen next and what's happening in this particular instance. Whereas the overview trailer basically left you with no questions, they just answered everything you might be thinking at once. And it was brilliant. The overview trailer was probably the best thing to come out of the marketing, but even still, the true impact that the marketing team had on this game is really what is the genius behind Sonic Frontiers. Now we're getting all sorts of DLC and everything like that because people are interested in this game, and people were interested from the very beginning because of their curiosity. For better or for worse, people were using the internet to voice their confusion that they had with this game since the very beginning, and it wasn't until this point where every question was basically answered. From that point forward, all we got were some song teasers, the Tokyo Game Show trailer, and then also the Showdown trailer, basically just leading up to the release of Sonic Frontiers. But at this point, this was just like the fun period of Frontiers, where you basically already knew everything about the game, and at this point, you already knew whether or not you were going to get Sonic Frontiers. So everything that basically followed the overview trailer kind of felt like it was more like icing on the cake. It was the extra additive that we truly didn't need that made the experience that much more fun. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the genius of Sonic Frontiers. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe on it, and let me know in the comment section down below if you want to see more videos just like it. As always, thank you again so much for watching. This is Silent signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?